Hello and welcome to a Rubik's Cube tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to solve a Rubik's Cube. It's a very simple method. It does take a little bit of work to solve the Rubik's Cube. You have to sit down and actually learn the method. You can't just watch a video and absorb how to do it and know how to do it like that, if that makes sense. But the method itself is fairly simple to learn. You could learn how to solve it in like a couple hours or even less, to be honest. So now I made this video. This was a request actually, so John, this is specifically for you, but at the same time I'm going to go ahead and put it on YouTube so that other people can learn as well. This is not a speed tutorial per se. I'm not going to show you how to solve it super quickly in like 20 seconds or anything. This is just how to solve it. All right, and I've got time codes on the screen right now for all the different steps to this method. There are 7 different steps that I'm going to be going over on how to solve it. So here are the time codes if you are watching this video again and just want to jump directly to one of those points. So here we go. I want to mention that this right here is not a Rubik's Cube like many people envision. The actual Rubik's brand makes a puzzle that is called a Rubik's Cube. This is a Rubik's Speed Cube, so this one is a Rubik's Cube. It doesn't have stickers. This one is just a budget speed cube. It's specifically called a Shengsho Gem 3x3, well, by 3, but so you can find a link in the description for where to buy this one. It honestly turns better than a traditional Rubik's Cube, and it is much cheaper. Like I got this one for like a little over $1, and it turns very well. It turns very smoothly, and it won't do that awkward thing that a Rubik's Cube normally does, where if it's off by a little bit, it gets stuck. This one will go nice and easily like that. So it'll go faster, it's much easier to turn, and I highly recommend a budget speed cube rather than a traditional Rubik's brand. The first thing I want to talk about is how to understand a Rubik's Cube. You can't think of a Rubik's Cube as a whole bunch of stickers. First of all, because this one doesn't have stickers. Second of all, because there are actually pieces in here that the stickers are connected. Shall we say this piece right here, this is a white and a green. And on a traditional Rubik's Cube, you can see that they don't look like they would be connected, but the actual piece itself is just one piece. So for a great visual aid of that, here are just the edges. Now this one has magnets in it, so that's something a normal Rubik's Cube might not have. But here, each one of these is just an edge piece. So notice how there's a plus on each side. These are your edge pieces. This right here is one piece. This white and this orange are not going to go anywhere. They will always be next to each other. If you have another white that's not next to an orange, it'll be one of these 3 colors. So this is an edge piece, and then for the fun of it, I put magnets to hold the corners together. These are the corner pieces. You'll notice that there's a core in the middle, of course, but each one of these pieces has 3 quote-unquote stickers. So white, blue, and orange will always be next to each other on this piece. These 3 colors are not going to go anywhere. So when you're looking for pieces, this piece might be rotated, but if you're looking for the piece that needs white, blue, and orange, for instance, they're always going to be next to each other on that piece, or else it'll be the wrong piece. So you can't just think of it as 9 different stickers on one side, and then on each side then you have like what, 54 different stickers to solve. Nope, there are only 12 edge pieces shown here. There's 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom, and 4 in the middle layer, and there are 6 centers. The centers will never move, so this side has to be the blue face. And then there are 8 corner pieces. This is obviously not very stable because it's just held together with magnets, but it's just a good visual on how the puzzle works. Now let's get to how to solve it. Okay, so in order to be able to solve it, there are a couple different algorithms. I think 6 is all we're going to be using for this particular method. And the algorithms, you have to understand how the notation works. So, very simply, we label it based off which side you turn for the algorithm. So we have the upper face. If I hold it like this will be the upper face, so U. This is the front face, the right face, the left face, the back face, and the bottom face. Except we call this one down. Okay, so any turn of the upper face will be a U or a U prime. So a U turn will turn the face clockwise. A U prime will turn it counterclockwise. And the same goes for every face. So if you see an F, it turns like this. If you see an R prime, you turn the right face counterclockwise. And it's always as if you were looking at it. So a back turn, a B, looks like that. B prime looks like this. D, D prime, L, L prime. Fairly straightforward. The only other symbol we use in these algorithms is a 2, so rather than prime or just the regular letter, a 2 just means a double turn of 180 degrees rather than 90. And that doesn't matter if it's prime or normal, because no matter which way you go on a standard 3x3 Rubik's Cube, a double turn either direction will result in the same thing. So this is an R2, this would be an F2, and yes, you can do an R2, D2. Now I have a fully scrambled Rubik's Cube. This looks very daunting at first, but again, you can notice that this piece right here is blue, white, and red. This piece is red and blue, rather than all the stickers being separate. Again, this looks very daunting, and if you scramble up your Rubik's Cube, it will not look the same as this, just because there are 43 quintillion different ways it can be scrambled. As such, that's part of the joy of solving a Rubik's Cube over and over, is that you will never have to solve it the exact same way twice. It just doesn't happen. So the first thing that we are going to do to solve it is we are going to build a cross, which, if you remember from this, that just means we're going to put the edge pieces around the center. And we're going to do that on whatever face we want. Traditionally, people start with the white face, sometimes the green face, or whatever color you want. So the easiest one to learn, I guess, is white, just because more people solve with white first, and it's fairly easy to find. So what you're going to look for, your white center sticker, or your white piece, your white center piece, is what side will have to be white, because no matter how I turn it, this side will always have the white center. You're going to look for your white edges. Okay, so this one right here, for instance, is white and orange. Here is my orange center. And all you're going to do is line up the orange like so, and then bring it up so that white and orange are there in place. Now, it may seem like I'm going over this fairly quickly. There aren't real algorithms for this step. There is one algorithm that it's nice to know because it gets very confusing. This step as a whole is very intuitive and very simple. If you just mess around with your Rubik's Cube for a couple minutes, you'll start to figure out how this works. So I'm going to put this piece here for now. Notice how it's green and white is backwards, but that is okay. Let me look around some more. Here is my blue and white piece. So since blue is over here, what I can do is match up the blue sides like that and then put it in place, and now I have two cross edges solved very simply. I have a red and white piece right here, which needs to go over here because here is red. So what I can do, if I go up like this, it doesn't quite work because it's in the wrong spot. So I will rotate it over, put my red and white in place, and rotate this back. And again, all of this is very intuitive. If you just mess around with your Rubik's Cube for a while, you'll start to figure out that if it's in the bottom layer, you can rotate it up into place like so. If it is in the bottom layer and you rotate it into place and it looks backwards like this, that's where the one algorithm comes in. So you don't even have to put it in place correctly at first. You can just put it in the right location. Green and white goes between these two centers. And here is the first algorithm. It's a very simple algorithm. Again, if I'm holding it like this, I have my upper face, my front face, and my right face. So the algorithm goes R prime, U, F prime, U prime. And all that did was flip this piece upside down. It sure messed up a whole bunch of other things, but at this point, I don't care about the location of any other piece. I'm only looking for this white cross on top. And the way that I know I've solved it, I have all of the other colors for the white cross edges matching up with their respective centers, orange, blue, and red, and so on. It is now solved. Here is the algorithm one more time, just so you can see it. R prime, U, F prime, U prime. That flipped this edge piece upside down. That was the simplest form of the algorithm, where I just did it on a solved puzzle. Yours is not going to look like that because it won't already be solved. It'll look more random like this. Okay, step 2, we have a white cross on this top side. What we will do now is solve the corners. If you remember, every corner piece has 3 colors on it, so that means 4 of the corner pieces will have white, the other 4 will have the opposite color of white, which is, in this case, yellow. In the standard case, it's always yellow. There are some Rubik's Cubes that have a different color scheme, but that's beside the point. So what we're looking for, we are looking for a corner that is in the bottom layer that has a white sticker or a white side on it. Okay, so we found one here. Notice how this is white, red, and green. What we're going to do is we're going to put white on top, we're going to leave white on top, and we're going to put red and green as our front and right face, and rotate the bottom layer so that this corner is directly underneath where it needs to go. Once you have that there, you're going to perform this algorithm. It's only 4 letters, 4 moves, but you'll have to repeat it a couple times. The algorithm goes R prime, D prime, remember counterclockwise, R, D. And with this particular algorithm, you may have to do it 3 times or 5 times, depending on the rotation. Notice how this one is in the right place. It's between the correct 3 center pieces. It's just rotated wrong. So I'm going to do it 2 more times to see if that fixes it. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. Now we have the white sticker on the right side, so I have to do it 2 more times. In this case, I had to do it 5 times. And there we go. This one is now in location. And it's as simple as that for the other 3 corners as well. So let's go looking in the bottom layer. Here is white, it's on the bottom, and this one is green and orange. So I'm going to put it underneath the green and orange, shall we say, slot. That's where the corner needs to go. And I'm going to do the same thing. There, I did it once. I need to do it 1, 3, or 5 times, and in this case I have to do it 2 more times, so a total of 3. There we go, and that got this corner in the proper location. This one, you'll notice, is already in the top, so you just have to do that algorithm once, and that'll put it in the bottom layer. So I'll just go ahead and do it once. And now if we'll notice, it is directly below it, so I can just go ahead and do the algorithm 1, 3, or 5 times. There's 1. 2. I have the wrong corner here, so I got to keep going. 3. And my last corner piece happens to be right here, nice and simple. So I rotate over to this side to put the corner here, and I have my white, blue, and red corner underneath it. And here we go, 1, 3, or 5 times. There's 3. And there's 5. And now my top layer is solved. And if you got confused by any of that, go back and watch it again. It's a very simple step. Again, I keep saying that because some of the steps a little bit later are a little more complicated, especially compared to this one. If you don't get it at first, that's okay. Just mess around with it for a little bit. It could take a little while to understand. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Now on to step 3. We have our entire white side. If you started with a different color, that's okay, but for the sake of this tutorial, I have started with white. So now we're going to flip the cube so that white is on the bottom. And what we're looking for, we have all of our centers solved, of course, because we did everything based off of the centers. They don't move. Meaning what we have is an open slot between 2 centers that is missing its piece. For instance, here is blue and red, and it is currently missing the blue and red piece between them, which is in the upper layer. What you're going to try to do is rotate your upper layer so that the edge piece, in this case blue and red, matches up with one of the 2 centers. Over here, it does not match because that's not the same color. Over here it does. So you're going to do it here. And there are 2 algorithms that are the same algorithm, just mirror images of each other. You do the exact same things with your upper, front, and right face, just a mirror image. So the first algorithm is when it's on the left side like this. What you're going to do is U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F prime, U, F. And you'll notice that this corner is still solved and the edge piece is solved on top of it. This one is already solved in this example, but that's okay. And here we have another example. This time it is on the right side. Notice how it matches up with the orange center rather than the green center. My green and orange edge needs to go like this. And that's how you know that it's in the correct location. If you can do an R prime or an F and bring the corner down and it's in the right spot, that's how you know you've got it set up properly. If I had it over here and tried to do that, it's backwards. So I know it needs to be over here. This is the exact same algorithm, just in reverse or mirror image. So instead of starting with a U, I'm going to start with U prime, F prime, U, F, U, R, U prime, R prime. Here I have one more edge, and this one is once again on the right face rather than on the front face. So I'm going to start with U prime, F prime, U, F, U, R, U prime, R prime. You'll do that for your 4 edges, and then your bottom 2 layers should be solved. You may sometimes find that you have your edge in the right location, it's just backwards. Or potentially you could have 2 that are backwards that need to be swapped. If you have an edge that's already in the middle layer that does not belong there, or is backwards in this case, just go ahead and do either one of those 2 algorithms once. And that will bring your edge to the top layer. And now you can line it up and do the correct algorithm and actually solve it. Like such. This is step 4. We're going to build a plus on the top. In this case, yellow, since yellow is almost always opposite white. There are a bunch of different cases this can be, so I'll show you those right now. When you get to your last layer, we are only looking at the edges. So basically this, we are ignoring the corners. We're only going to be looking at the 4 edge pieces and how they relate to the center. And you're going to get one of these 4 cases, okay? The ultimate goal is this one, where there's already a plus. But you might end up where there's a bar that looks like this, or it could look like this. It's roughly the same. You could end up with an L that's here, or so on. Or you could end up with none of your edges being flipped properly, or being oriented in this case. All 4 edges on this one are backwards. 2 are correct, 2 different ones are correct, or they're all solved. This one, if you achieve this one when you're done with your middle layer, you're already done with this step. That was easy. But all of these have the exact same algorithm. You just apply it 1, 2, or 3 times. Okay, so we're going to start with the easiest one, which is just the bar across. You want to have it so that it is across horizontally, not, I guess, vertically. You want to have it being across the puzzle when you hold it with this side as the front. The color doesn't matter really down here. This is just how I'm holding it. And here's the algorithm you're going to do. Front, right, up, right inverse, up inverse, front inverse. And notice I now have a plus. On this one, we're going to hold it so that the L, the little L shape of the corners, is in the back and left, and we're going to do the exact same algorithm. And notice I now have a bar across, and I can do the algorithm again. And now I have a plus. The final case is where you have a dot, and surprise, surprise, it's the exact same algorithm. This leads to an L shape, so I'm going to go ahead and put the L in the back left and do it again. And one more time with the bar shape. So front, right, up, right counterclockwise, up counterclockwise, front counterclockwise, or prime for all of those. And as you can see, it doesn't really matter where the corners are because we now have a plus on the top of each side. And now for step 5, what we're going to be doing is putting each edge piece in the correct location. You'll notice on this particular one, these two are correct, but these two are not, okay? So we are going to be fixing all 4 of these edges. Your ultimate goal is one that looks like this, where all 4 edges are actually in the correct location. Very, very similar to that first step when you did the white cross and you had them all in the right spot. That's what you're doing here as well. So if you get to here, and you have all 4 solved, you're done with this step. Sometimes you may skip this step, sometimes you'll have to do it. That's just how it goes. So what you're looking for with this particular step, you want to find one edge that's solved and have the other 3 be wrong. That won't always be the case. You may have it one where it looks like 2 are solved and then the other 2 are backwards. That's a very easy fix. You just rotate your top layer in either direction. I could go this way, which solves my red one, and the other 3 are backwards. Or I could go this way, which solves my green one, and then the other 3 are backwards. So in this particular case, I have my blue and yellow edge solved, and these other 3 need to be rotated. So here is the algorithm. Right, up, right inverse, up, right, up twice. Again, you can go either direction. Right inverse. And you may have to apply this one twice. In this case, I do have to apply it twice. It moves these 3 edges around. It also messes with corners, but for this step that is not important. I will have to do this one again. Right, up, right inverse, up, right, up twice, right inverse. And now I have all of my top edges in the right location. Before I get to corners, there's one other case to be aware of, and that's where I have 2 edges solved opposite of each other and 2 edges that are backwards. If I rotated the top layer, I would have these 2 solved and these 2 backwards. This one is a fairly simple fix. Just apply the algorithm anywhere. It does not really matter where. It's the same algorithm. Right, up, right inverse, up twice, right inverse. And now I should be able to find a location where one is solved and the other 3 are not. Step 6, we are going to be putting all of our corners in the right location. In this particular case, notice how all of the corners are actually in the right spot already. So on this particular scramble, I already skipped this step. This one is yellow, blue, and red. This one is yellow, red, and green. This one is yellow, green, and orange. And they are all in the correct location. They just need to be rotated. This is the ultimate goal. They may look different based on how they're rotated, but you want to have them all in the correct location. In this particular case, I have yellow, blue, and orange between the yellow, blue, and orange faces. The other 3 are not correct. Here is the algorithm. It is only 8 moves. It's one of a couple algorithms in this particular method that are 8 moves long, and that's the longest we'll ever get for this method. The algorithm looks like this. Up, right, up prime, left prime, up, right prime, up prime, left. What that does is that moves these 3 corners around, and you'll notice that every other move was an up or an up prime. You'll know you're doing this one properly if the corner that you're starting with, the one that's in the correct location, just goes back and forth in between moves. The other moves are up, up, down, and down. Basically, so it's the right side away from you, the left side away from you, the right side towards you, the left side towards you, or right, left inverse, left. So with this corner just going back and forth, it ends up being fairly simple to remember, and then you may have to do this one twice, depending on where these three corners are, since it rotates them around. I don't remember which way. But then you'll end up with all of your corners in the correct location, and maybe even one or two of them solved, such as in this case where I have two already solved. And now we are on to the final step. And in this step, all we're doing is rotating corners. You may have maybe just one corner solved. You might have two corners already solved. You might have it where none of your corners are currently rotated properly. They're just all in the right spot. That's okay. This step will account for all of that and we'll solve it very simply. It's the exact same algorithm as step 2. The only difference being you have to be more careful how you apply it. The way these algorithms all work, at the start of the puzzle, they don't have to preserve anything because there's nothing solved, and as you get going, they do specific things that are more and more specific depending on how much is solved, and this final one will move only the corners. They will rotate only the corners. It just looks a little confusing. So, I'm going to hold it, in this particular case, I'll hold it with blue in the front and yellow on top, red is on the right side. And that's important because I need to remember that I have blue in the front. So, I have a corner that's wrong in my upper right location here, the upper right position. And I'm going to start the same algorithm as I did in step 2. R prime, D prime, R, D. R prime, D prime, R, D. And I have now done it twice. For this particular algorithm, every time you apply that, you have to do it 2 or 4 times, and you have to stay with the same face on the front. Otherwise, you'll end up messing things up. These all look wrong, but they will fix themselves, that's okay. What you'll end up doing is doing this same algorithm a total of 6 or potentially 12 times, depending on how messed up the last layer is. But every 2 or 4 times, you are free to rotate the top layer. So having done it twice, I can now rotate my top layer and leave blue in the front so I keep doing it in the same spot, just affecting this corner rather than something else. So I'm going to do it again. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. I have now done it 4 times, and I rotated this one properly. I can rotate the top layer, do a U move, and do this same algorithm 2 more times. That'll get me back to 6, and that should solve everything down here. You don't want to forget that last D move. Sometimes it's easy to look and see, oh, I solved the corner, and forget to rotate the bottom side, the bottom face back over. You have to remember that every time for this one, or else your cube will end up very scrambled after this step rather than solved. Now I have all my corners rotated, so I can just rotate my upper face back into position, and I have a solved puzzle. For this particular one, notice how instead of yellow being on the right side, yellow is on the front. I'm still going to do the same thing, but it might take more attempts. I have now done the algorithm twice, and it's still not solved, so I'm going to keep going. There's 4. Since it is now solved, and I did my last D move, I can rotate my upper layer and keep going. Let's do it twice more. And there we go. It only took 6 times through. I had to apply 4 of them to one corner rather than 2, 2, and 2. And finally, this is a case where I'm going to have to do the algorithm 12 times just because I have to do 2, 4, 4, and 2. So I can pick whatever side I want to start so long as I stay on that side. So let's do red. I'm going to start with the red face. R prime, D prime, R, D. R prime, D prime, R, D. That's twice. There's 4 times. I can rotate my top layer any direction I want to. Let's go here. R prime, D prime, R, D. R prime, D prime, R, D. Notice, all of this fixed itself because I did 6 times, but my corner's not solved. So I'm going to end up going 6 more times through just to solve this one and the other 2 corners. I can pick wherever I want to start, but since I'm already here, let's just keep going from here. There's 2, and I can rotate my top layer. There's 4. and there's 6. And now I just fix my top layer, and I'm done. And that's fairly simple. Again, it'll take a little bit to get used to the algorithms themselves. Some of them are a little tricky to execute at first, and it can be very confusing trying to remember what step you're working on and what algorithm goes with which step. That just comes with a little bit of practice. Again, I have all the algorithms on screen while we do this. I have them also in the description so that you can look at them, or you can jump to specific time codes and see what in the world was the algorithm for step 5, or for instance. So there's my quick tutorial on how to solve a Rubik's Cube, a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, if you will. So thank you once again, everyone, so much for watching. John, I hope this really helps. Just spend some time watching the video. If you get stuck or have any questions, feel free to ask me and let me know, and I will do my best to clarify things that may have been confusing in this tutorial. So once again, thank you all so much for watching.